But what we're going to do here is a PowerPoint presentation where I'll run over the camera and go over the functions of the camera. And at the same time, we'll do or show off the different looks that we have built in that already come with the camera. We have another camera set up just to the left of us, or to the right of everybody, where we'll show the different looks that are built into the camera. We'll also show off in-camera grading, right, of the talent that we'll have sitting in a bit. And then we'll also show how to record log C footage and bring it into the AMIRA color tool. Make a correction in color there and bring it back into the camera and uploading it into the camera. From that point, then we'll move over and do a little bit more advanced grading with Resolve. So I'll show you guys how to create a 3D LUT in Resolve, create it into a AMIRA look file, which is the way that the camera looks at it, right? So you can convert it. It still stays as a 3D LUT. It just converts it over to a look file to be able to process it within the camera. So we'll go over that. So to begin with, again, we're utilizing the same sensor technology that we have on Alexa, right? So Alexa we've had out in the market since 2010. We're getting close to 2015 now, and it's still pretty much the industry standard when it comes to digital cameras, right? So along with that, with AMIRA, we're offering a smaller, lighter, and faster package, right? But the same image quality, same characteristics that we have on Alexa. So we have 14.2 stops of dynamic range, right, at a base sensitivity of 800 ASA. And you can drop the ASA down from 160 up to 3200 ASA and still have the 14.2 stops of dynamic range, right? And the way that it handles the highlights and in the shadow, and it looks into the shadow area, it's very, very, I would say 100% the way Alexa looks. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, that it has even a cleaner noise floor, right, that the AMIRA does. So what we can, in December, we will be coming out with UHD, or 4K for TV, right? So the camera will be able to capture 4K, 2K, and 1080. So depending on the format that you like to shoot in, you can definitely use the camera. It's very versatile. So UHD is 3840 by 2160 format there. We obviously have HD TV. So there where we have an example is the different sizes of capture area that we're utilizing, right? So it's really 2 megapixels compared to 8, so it's 4 times more image capture or information that we're getting in a UHD signal. And then a little bit, we also have 2K, right, 2048 by 1080. And obviously for 4K or film out or for a DCI production, it would be 4K 4096 by 2160. But what we are capturing in the camera is UHD in a 16 by 9 container. We'll be able to capture that up to 60 frames per second in ProRes. Okay, so the camera, it's natively will be able to capture 4K or UHD TV, 2K, 1080, log C, Rec 709, and depending on the format, up to 200 frames per second with no loss in image quality. Okay, and that's going to be a licensed feature that we're going to be coming out with towards the end of the year. Okay. A little bit about the differences in models, right? So we have the basic, the advanced, and the premium model. So the hardware of the camera is not going to change physically, right? We won't be doing any upgrades currently. We might do some as the camera goes into, to obviously to try to extend its life cycle. Same with Alexa. Originally, it was a 60 frames per second camera, only 16 by 9. If you wanted to record every RAW, you would have to do that off board. Now you have the ability to record every RAW on board. It utilizes a full open gate sensor, right, which is an aspect ratio of 1:5:5. We have 4:3 for anamorphic shooting and 16 by 9, right? So it's basically the same camera that you can pretty much upgrade to a XT camera, right? So we're going to have the same, or there's the same thought behind AMIRA to be able to, since it's a modular system, we could swap out the left and right side electronics and upgrade it also in the future, right? So it's a future-proof investment. The first model is an HD, right? So it gives you 1080 up to 100 frames per second and Rec 709. More of ENG style applications or kind of working in news gathering. The other day I demoed the camera to a gentleman that shoots motocross racing, and he just does the interviews in the morning, shoots those interviews in the morning, and then they show them off that night, right? So he doesn't have any time to go really into color correction or to shoot log C. He has to be able to take out that card, hand it over to editorial, and they take it from there. So for him, it makes sense. He's going to be picking up the regular model, the first basic model that we have there, because he doesn't need to shoot really high frame rate or log C, right? He doesn't need to do any color correction in post. The second model moves you up to 422 HQ, right? And also introduces log C, and you have built-in looks. And you can also manipulate built-in looks through ASC CDL values or video level parameters. And it introduces log C, and you still have Rec 709. The last one, the premium model that we have here today, has 2K resolution, 1080 log C, and it does it in 444 in ProRes, right? So it has a full-blown abilities, and you can also have the ability to do changes to the in-camera grading through the ASC CDL values, but at the same time you can import 3D LUTs into the camera, right? So you have far more, ability to correct colors in post and bring them into the camera, if you'd like to do that. They're 10-bit or 12-bit. Yeah, so the first model would be 422, that's 10-bit, right? The same with 422 HQ, it's 10-bit, and then 444 is 12-bit, okay? But now we have the ability with those different models, since the camera hardware is not really changing, only what licenses are activated within the camera. If you'd like, say that you have a job where normally you would be using the first basic package, you can also do a temporary license and upgrade to either the advanced or the premium camera model if you'd like. So it's a temporary license that you can purchase online for a week. After that, it magically disappears. But if you would want to say that you're getting more jobs that require, a higher codec or higher frame rate, you can choose also to buy the licenses permanently. So it's your choice. So very flexible. You could buy them temporarily for a week or permanently for the life of the camera. Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding the features?
So when the 4K comes out, say this year yet?
Yes, it'll be out in December.
Does that fall under the premium license, or is it another license on top of that?
It's another license. It's a separate purchase. It's a license you would buy online. You just register the camera on our website, and then you can pay. It's being bought through the factory in Munich, so you have to purchase it in euros. It's about 450 euros or so. So it depends on how you convert that and what time you buy. It might be a little bit cheaper to get online, but it will be available for all the models. So it doesn't matter whether it's just the basic, the advanced, or the premium, right? The only difference is you're still shooting UHD material there within 16:9, but the difference is whether you're doing that in 422 HQ or in full 444 color resolution. So that'll be the only difference, right? Frame rate will be limited to 60 frames per second for now. Also on that. So a little bit about the ergonomics, right? I think this is one of the biggest key points on the camera, is the ergonomics. We have two sliding dovetails, one on top, one on the bottom. And as the class ends, everybody will have their time to do hands-on with the camera. So we have a locking lever. With that locking lever, we unloosen and we can slide the camera completely, back and forth. Depending on what type of lens we have on there, we're able to very nicely, balance out the camera on our shoulder, right? And the same thing with the top part. So the top part has a sliding dovetail. It has a safety pin. There's a safety catch there, so it won't slide off, right? So it's very, very nice features there. This setup that we have today is the lightweight setup, where we have built-in lightweight support rods and also a rosette for connecting handheld accessories there. But we also have different accessories where you're able to convert the camera into a full-blown, say, studio setup. If you have it on a dolly or on sticks, using a 12-1 or any other type of lens, it's a bridge plate adapter, and that'll convert it over to either standard studio 15mm or standard studio 19mm support rods, right? So we have those accessories. There's another cheese plate on the top that you can use to connect for, say, Steadicam, right? Or you can also do an underslung of the camera and move that cheese plate to the bottom, since the distances from the dovetails are the same, pretty much, right? We also have a viewfinder. The viewfinder is actually a two-piece viewfinder. So we have an OLED viewfinder that's resolution is 1280 by 1024, right? We have a proximity sensor within that viewfinder. So as you put your eye into the viewfinder, the viewfinder will turn on, and as you take it off, for a few seconds it'll shut off, and that's just to prevent burn-in, right? So if you have, say, an aspect ratio of, or 178, and you might have 185 in there, and say you select the frame line to be red, and you have the intensity fully cranked, it might cause some burn-in in the long run. So to prevent that, we have a proximity sensor right there that senses your eye coming into the area, and it'll either turn on or off. We do have 4 channels of audio recording. This is the main display for the channel for the audio recording, for setting up of that. But we'll run through that in a little bit. As far as the build of the camera body itself weighs 9 pounds. It's about 9.9 pounds. It's 100% aluminum. We're not using any plastic parts within the camera body whatsoever, right? So it's made for a rental environment, to be out in production, for run and gun productions, to come in for one rental off of several weeks' work and go out right on the show floor again and prep floor and go out to work again, right? Same as Alexa, it's a workhorse camera. We have 2 air intakes, one on each side. If you look through the camera, if you look in front of the camera, you could actually see through the backside, outside of the camera also. So what we have there is virtually the middle part of the camera is hollow, right? So as you can see, it's a very, very narrow body, right? It has a very narrow body and it's hollow. That's where the air passes through, and it gets blown out by 2 fans here on the right side of the camera. Right there, through the ventilation there, we have 2 fans that are self-contained in one unit, and it's field replaceable, right? So it's pretty much the only part that is spinning in the camera, or that's turning. It has a bearing. That'll be the only part that would that will introduce noise as wear and tear becomes a factor. But that is field replaceable. The operating temperature of the camera is -4 degrees up to 122 degrees, right, Fahrenheit. So it has a broad operating temperature. We do use a Peltier element to keep the sensor at a constant 35 degrees Celsius, same as Alexa. That's the main operating temperature that we want to have. And the electronics or the side panels are completely sealed off from the electronics. So if the camera happens to get wet, or if you're shooting out in the snow, like right now, it's snowing, or in a desert or anything like that, you're pretty safe, The electronics, we have 1 board on top, 1 on the bottom, and 2 on the sides, but they're completely sealed off from these main electronic parts, from the side panels, right? So pretty much splash proof, right? Weather resistance. Of course, you would just take the normal precautions and put on a rain cover, right? If it's raining, or if you're on a desert, to protect the switches. But it is pretty much a very, very solid piece of camera. So now we're going to go into a little bit about the lens mounts. Okay, so I'm going to work from the front of the camera all the way out to the back, to the other side of the camera. So we have different mounting options. Standard, it comes with a PL mount with LDS, with lens data system, right? So the LDS system stands for lens data system, but it records focus, iris, zoom, depth of field, and also what type of lens is on there. All through the metadata recorded onto each video clip within the camera, right? The other option we have is we have a B4 mount. Okay, so if you're using ENG or TV style lenses, we have a B4 mount for that. NFL Films for the first time went from shooting on film with 16SR2s or 16SR3s, and they've tested all the other competitors, and they decided to go with AMIRA. So currently they have 30 AMIRAs in their inventory. So any stuff that you guys are seeing now shot by NFL Films is shot on AMIRA. But since they have so much TV glass, or 2/3 inch glass in their inventory, they're using an adapter. So we have a dedicated mount, B4 mount, that you can put on. It does give you a light loss of 2 1/4 stops, okay, because you are dropping down to a smaller image circle. And we do have glass elements in there that spreads out the light to the complete Super 35 sensor. And then we also have, as another option, is a PL to B4 adapter, right? So if you do have glass that's PL and some B4 glass, you can switch between both. And then the last mount that we have available is the Canon mount. So for EF lenses, we're also offering a Canon mount. And that we'll be able to control or do return iris via the user button, one of these user buttons, and they'll be assignable. So you'll be able to do that in the future. If you're swapping out mounts, you can swap them out. We have 4 screws. There's 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. They're captive screws. And you can swap these different mounts out in the field if you'd like. Right? The material that we're using is called IVAR. It's a stainless steel material that's very resistant to temperature or to temperature changes, right? So you're not going to have any change in flange focal distance. Your FFD will still be correct. And the 2 mating parts that we're using are grounded down to literally microns, right? So it's super flat. You're not going to have any issues there. As long as you take the normal precautions out in the field, they are field swappable. Okay. A little bit about the filters. So right now we can switch the input. Let me see if I can switch the input to camera, to the other camera. There. Actually, let me switch it over to this camera. Okay, cool. Okay, so right now we have 3 different filters, ND filters, built into the camera. They're in a self-contained unit, right? So there's no way of dust and all these other particles getting into them. They are IR filters, so they correct for infrared, and they're full spectrum. So there's no color shift whatsoever, whether you have the 6, 1.2, or 2.1 on there. So that's easily accessible through the front of the camera. So here we can move over to a 6. So we have a 6 there, right? We have a 1.2, and then 2.1 where we won't be able to see anything in here, except for that light from the projector. Okay, so those you can, it's really nice that you can operate that while you're doing a handheld shot. If you're moving from an interior to an exterior shot during the day and you need to quickly access the filters, while you have the camera here, you can just quickly flip them over, flip whichever position you'd like to have. So again, those are the filters there, the NDIR filters on the camera. Let's switch over. That's up. Okay. So I'm talking about a little bit about the viewfinder. Again, it is an OLED viewfinder. And within the viewfinder, we also have different functions that we can do with the camera. So we can also have peaking functions, and we have exposure. The viewfinder, it works as or doubles as not only a viewfinder for the camera, for the eyepiece, but as a monitor, right? And the monitor can be corrected. It can be shut down completely or positioned any way you like to have it positioned. And it also doubles as your main menu. So the last button here would be the menu. This is how you would enter the menu into the camera, right? So if you guys have shot with Alexa before, it's pretty much the same layout, right? So there's no learning curve whatsoever to work with the AMIRA. Okay, the only difference is that now we have quick access buttons that are pre-programmable. So as you're operating the camera, you can quickly just switch to a different position and have a different, set frame rate or different exposure or different color temperature to the camera, right? So some of the features that already come within the viewfinder is peaking. So we can activate peaking. I don't know if you guys could see it through there. It's kind of a little bit hard through the monitor, but we do have peaking. We have the second button would be false color. Okay, so you can switch to false color. You can also put on zebra if you'd like to expose that way or check exposure for that through zebra. We have gamma change, so we can look at log C or Rec 709, right? And we have zoom. So it'll zoom, it's a 2.25 times zoom on there, and it turns the image to black and white. So as you're shooting, you can also zoom in, quickly correct for focus, and then zoom back out. So that's a very nice feature to have. And then, of course, we have, our record button here. So we can quickly record, a quick shot there. And as we're hand holding the camera with our thumb, we can also hit the playback button. So the playback button will be on the bottom of the display there. And then it'll just play back the last clip there, right? Okay. And then there's a button here for exiting, and we can exit back to a live view. So within the menu, you can also select if you want to delete the last clip, right? Circle take the last clip. And of course, you can keep it if you decide to do that. So many functions we have here within the viewfinder. Again, as you bring your eye up to the viewfinder, the proximity sensor will sense that and then also turn on the eyepiece for you. We have the monitor right now set up into auto mode, so it doesn't matter which mode you flip it in, it'll automatically correct the image, right, on there. Okay, a little bit about the buttons, the functions of the buttons. The first button is a US button for user. Okay, so we can select what we want to have or what features we want to have on that user button. So on the first button, the user button, we can have shutter speed if we'd like. We can have looks and also frame rate. We have it today, it's set up for frame rate, right? So if we go back into the menu, we hit FPS here, we'll see there's 3 different positions there, right? As you can see. So we have it right now selected as 23976, position 1. Position 2 is at 120, and then position 3 is at 200 frames per second. So it's very easy to swap or change to a different frame rate if you'd like, right? And these are all programmable. So say that we don't want 120 at position 2 where we're currently at. All we do is hit set FPS. We have a little wheel here on the right side, and we can set, say, 60 frames per second. So now we have programmed, again, 23, we have 60 in position 2, and then 200 in position 3. So super simple to activate and to change within the menu. If you want to go back to the previous page or home page, we can either hit back or home. The second button there is for where it says EI, exposure up on the left. The middle button is for our exposure index. Okay. So again, right now in position 2, we have, or actually in position 1, we have 400 ASA, 800 ASA in position 2, and position 3 is 3200 ASA. And again, we can drop it anywhere from 160 or pump it up to 3200 ASA. Right? And to make a change, it's exactly the same way we would if we're doing a frame rate change, right? So I think that's one of the really nice things about the camera is that you're able to pre-program it, and as you're shooting and you need to change over to a different color temperature or bump up the ASA or drop it down a bit, you've already selected those within the presets, and you can quickly access that as you're operating the camera, right? With Alexa, it's a little bit different where you have to have an AC or walk over and adjust the camera on the right side and enter the menus and to make that selection. So this is a little bit faster workflow, right? It's a little bit faster to work with. Now we have color temperature. Color temperature, we have 32, 43, 56, and 7000. You can select any color temperature you want in there within a range from 2000 Kelvin to 10,000. And we also have CC shift or color correction where you can add or subtract green and magenta, right? And our main software release that we're going to be coming out with in December, we're going to have the ability, right now to do an auto white balance. So the auto white balance is the last button on the bottom. So of course we would have a gray card, we would focus on the gray card, hit that button again, and then it'll automatically, balance for the correct color temperature there, right? In our next software update package within the premium camera, we're going to have dynamic auto white balance, which is going to be very nice. You can turn that on. And so if you're moving from certain lighting conditions over to another room where it might have mixed lighting, it'll dynamically do an auto white balance for you as you're maybe doing a chasing or whatever.
Continuously?
Continuously, yeah. Okay. Okay. And then so these other functions, of course, we have the record button here. We have a lock off button where we can lock all the features off, right, on the camera there. So as you're operating in your head or anything moves one of the switches, it won't affect the camera whatsoever, or it won't change any of the settings. And then we have our main power on-off button here. And the camera right now boots up in about 12 seconds or so. Bless you. It boots up in about 12 seconds or so. And our next main software release 1.1, we should be able to cut that time in half. So about 6 seconds or so of quick boot up time, which is nice. The other buttons we have here, similar to Alexa where we have 6 user buttons, we have 4 here. If you press the shift button, you'll get an additional 4, so a total of 8 user buttons. So now that we have 2 HD SDI outputs on the camera, you can configure them separately. So we can send, say, log C to one monitor and Rec 709 to another monitor, and or apply a look that we've created. We can have it, on one monitor and have the original log C footage on the other one. And you can set those up through the user buttons. You can also set it up to take a grab or a JPEG or TIFF, grab of the scene that you're currently going to shoot with, or configure it to have false color, zebra, anything you like as an operator. These would be the configuration buttons to set up. Okay, and those are quickly accessible. Within the main page, we press the button here on the right side, and then we can go down to user buttons, select user buttons, and then you will see right there, position 1, button 1. We have all these options here that we can choose from, right? So right now I have it set up to zoom. Okay, so we'll go back again, there. So very easy to address the camera functions and to change them. Really, very, very intuitive system we have there. Now we have different type of media that we introduced with this camera. It's called CFast 2.0 technology, right? So it has very fast read and write speeds, as you can see there, right? And it's a pinless technology, so they're not like the regular fast, the regular C cards. Okay, so it's a pinless technology. And right now, currently we have the 120 gig card with us today. And it'll give you about, in the lowest ProRes recording time, 4:2, you get about 3 hours of recording on here, right? In the highest quality, we get about 46 minutes in 2K resolution, which is still pretty good. Lexar is also going to be manufacturing, and they're currently in testing right now as we speak, and they're going to be having coming out with a card that's 256 gigs, so that'll double the recording time. We also have Samsung getting into the mix of wanting to make these cards. The beauty of that is that you don't have to buy them directly from us. You can buy them from B&H, you can buy them from any professional, Photoshop, and that also drives the cost down of the cards. So currently for 120 gig card, it's about $1,200. Compared to a Sony S/S card, 64 gigs that you would use on Alexa, those are $1,800. And they're now discontinued, right, those cards, right? So by having different manufacturers, I think it's a win-win for everyone. Right there. So this is the type of cards we're using. We have 2 slots, right? We have 2 slots in there. So for now, it's just meant for switching between one slot and the second slot. Eventually, we will be integrating spanning into it. So as one card fills up, it'll automatically move over to the next card. And we also have a pre-record function. So depending on what format you're shooting, you can record anywhere from 3 seconds up to 30 seconds of pre-record, which is really nice for nature photographers. Through constant feedback, any feedback that I get today, we send it over to the factory, and there's a team that looks at all this feedback, and they decide on what new features we can add into the next software update package. So I believe once we do our major 2.0 software update that introduces UHD, we will also possibly have the ability to be able to record, say, full quality on one card and a lower quality on the other card, right? So like a proxy file on the other card, which is really nice. Or you can even record possibly even Rec 709, you hand that over, and that's your dailies, right? They can correct for that, make a quick correction, edit it, and then they can show off those dailies. Or they do an online workflow, right? So that's going to be a very nice feature that we're going to introduce in the near future. We also have 2 USB ports there that you can see. So we went away from the SD cards to upload information or download new software update packages or frame lines or looks that we would normally do on Alexa. Now we're just using it, USB thumb drive, which is faster. You don't need a reader. You just drop it into your laptop. You're ready to go. So this is the main communication for that now. And there's 2 ports there. Not sure why. I only use one. The other one, when I'm doing trade shows, I use it as to just to charge my iPhone. So that's what I do. But I don't know, whatever you guys, whatever feature, So it works. It works. And then we have an Ethernet port. So the Ethernet port is for addressing the camera. You can connect to your laptop and have certain functions as far as frame rate, shutter angle, basic functions for now. But normally it's used for our guys in service, right, to service the camera. So I myself have been, out of the country and updating a customer's camera with a new software package, and the power was cut off to the building, so the files that were being transferred were corrupted, right? So I'm like, great, now I got myself in a mess. I shouldn't have, even tried to do that, right? But I was trying to show off, so that's what I get for showing off. So I called my friends in Burbank, and they said, no problem, we'll go onto the computer. You give us, you give us the ability to jump on and do a remote session. So they were able to remotely get into the camera via my laptop and send a new software update package, right? So, and luckily that fixed the problem. So we got the camera, the customer's camera up and running again, and everything was A-okay from that point. So that's what the Ethernet port is mainly used for, saving my butt out in the field, okay? Okay, these are a little, or an example of the recording times. Again, if we're doing more E&G style application, if it's just 4:2, we get up to 3 hours of recording time. And then in 12-bit, 444, 2K, we get about 49 minutes or so, right? So that's more if we're gonna be shooting high quality television, commercials, shooting blue screen or green screen, well mainly green screen, then we would use the full resolution of the camera, of the color there. So that's a few examples of that. On the back of the camera, here we do have our choice of gold mount or V mount, and it comes with a D-tap on the camera. But these two antennas that are coming off the back of the camera, one is for Bluetooth audio monitoring, right? So we have 4 channels of audio that you can record onto, but at the same time, we have a separate track of audio that you can record via the Bluetooth headset. So say that it's a reality television show where many times they have up to 14 cameras shooting at once. The director can be communicating directly with the camera operator and say, okay, that's a great shot, or move in a little bit tighter or go wider, however you want. That can be recorded. If you'd like, or at least they can be able to communicate back and forth, right, via this antenna. The second antenna is for Wi-Fi communication. So once it's activated on our next software, you'll have the ability to be able to adjust the camera using your iPhone or iPad to make some changes, right? Normal changes like frame rate, shutter angle, color temperature to the camera. We are going to open up an SDK and have third-party developers create their own apps where we would be able to create a 3D LUT and also send it to the camera wirelessly, do wireless timecode, and also for, say, the script supervisor, where they're entering all their information, to be able to send it to the camera also wirelessly. All this will be recorded into the metadata of each video clip, right? So it's going to be really, really nice features once that comes out. So the DP can be, in Video Village, creating his or her 3D LUT and then send it wirelessly to the camera, right? So that'll be one of the features that will be available coming soon. So now we have built-in looks. So now we can talk about built-in looks. The camera already comes in with certain built-in looks. If we could have somebody sit in on our little set that we've created, then I can show you guys the different looks that we have. There. So I'm gonna just walk over to this camera, and then we'll talk a little bit about.
No, you were expecting a model. John must be really busy.
Okay, so right now what we're looking at, or what we're showing off, is just standard Rec 709. And then we have a commercial look to the camera, right? That brings up it brings up more of the highlights, but it protects, of course, for the skin, color tone there. We have another look that's already built in that's called landscape, more for outdoor shooting, where it'll saturate and expand a little bit more of the background colors, right? But also protect for the actors for the skin tone. Then we have LCC. So LCC it drops the contrast quite a bit, or slightly down, and what that is it's an intermediate codec or capture form between log C and Rec 709, right? So log C, it really desaturates the image. It gives you the full 14.2 stops of dynamic range, and you have more time, of course, in post to go ahead and manipulate the image and play with it, right? So low contrast curve is actually being applied to Rec 709 curve over that, dropping the contrast just a bit so that there is a little bit of room for color correction in post, and then you output your work, right? So if you want to have a little bit more room or more leg room there to play with the colors, you can select low contrast curve, and that's just a faster workflow than you would normally do shooting log C. The next one look would be vibrant, right? So it boosts up the colors quite a bit there, right? And again, protecting for skin tone. The last look would be if you're shooting Rec 709 and you're using Alexa with AMIRA, right, which is currently being used on quite a bit of television shows right now, you would select X-2-Alexa. So what's going to happen there? It's going to replicate the Rec 709 output of Alexa, right? So Alexa, if you compare Alexa Rec 709 output to the AMIRA's output, AMIRA, it's a little bit slightly more saturated because it's meant for a little bit faster workflow, right? When you're capturing, to be able to output that type of work a little bit faster. So the saturation goes down slightly when shooting with this selection, having the X2 Alexa selected. So right now we're going to go back to Rec 709. Okay, so that's Rec 709. Thank you very much. We're cool. Yes.
When shooting with the low contrast curve,
Mhm.
do you output a Rec 709 signal?
You can configure those separately within the menu. Yeah,
So it'll
because
record the LCC to the cards, but you can.
yeah, you can record as metadata, or you can also record already a burnt-in look. It all depends on how you want to do it. Yeah. So it can just be caught as metadata, or it can be recorded as a complete, what you see is what you get. Once you've shot it, there's no going back, right? So I'm going to switch over back to the laptop here. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about in-camera grading, right? So we can do in-camera grading. So say that we have the camera hooked up to a monitor. We can go into the main menu where we have looks. So these are the looks that already come with the camera and are built-in looks here that we have selected. Okay, so say that we want to make a change and we want to change a Rec 709 output. Okay, so what we can do first is we're going to duplicate Rec 709 through the menu. So we'll duplicate that, and then we're going to name it. So we'll name it, Rec 709. We'll go. We'll do really quick Cine equipped. Okay. I'll put Cine Q. So we're going to go ahead and save that. We're going to save that. So now that we have it in the menu, right, we have Cine Q there. So now we can duplicate the look. We've saved it. We're going to confirm that we want to write over it. So once I go down there, now we're going to select our look parameters, and we'll hit the edit button, right? So that same menu that you see up there will pop up. So we have our slope, offset, power, and saturation for ASC CDL transforms, or we have video level parameters down below where we can do black, gamma, knee, saturation, and saturation by hue and by color. So we're going to overwrite, or we're going to, overwrite this file that we've created. So now we have access to the menu. Right, so we can start to edit. So now say I'm going to do something over Rec 709. So what I'm going to do right now is basically go into the blue channel. Okay, so I'm going to select the blue channel there, and then I'm going to start to add more values and pump it up. Pump up the blue more in the scene, and I can also press the 10 times button, so it'll give me 10 times reaction speed. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just pump up the blue completely, just as an example, right? But you can really tune in and create the looks to your liking. So we're there. So I'll go ahead and save that look now. Okay, so I'm going to go back one step, and then now select, or I'm at Rec 709 Cine Q again. Then if I go to my monitor, it's really hard to see here because there's not a lot of light, but I don't know if you guys can see, but the image is blue. It's a lot more bluer than it was before, basically, right? So normally you would have this, you would have a monitor set up as a reference point. Let me see here. If I can pump that up a bit. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see there, but it's a little bit more bluer, obviously, right? Yeah, okay. So let me see if I could bring it up to here. Yeah, that looks terrible. Right? But as you can see, there is more blue pumped up into the scene. Okay, so normally, yeah, we would have a monitor or several monitors calibrated, right? And then that output to the monitor, and you can do, as a DP, can do the in-camera grading if they like within the menu. Make those changes. Once you save that look, even though we're recording in log C, we can just have that information sent as metadata, right, onto each video clip. Or we can change our record output to Rec 709, and then that look that we've created in camera will actually be recorded onto the cards. Okay, so there's no going back from that point. So right now we'll just switch back to our Rec 709 look. Okay. And from there, let me switch back over to the laptop there. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, does anybody have any questions as far as in-camera grading? Everybody got that? It's pretty easy. Yes, Greg.
Question on, talk about you can apply it or to the actual recorded data that you collect or just as metadata. Is that something that, so it becomes pretty much a destructive if you're recording it right as part of the scene. It's
Yeah.
gonna be that way forever.
Yes. Yeah. What you see is what you. There's no going back. Now, some DPs might want to do that to protect their work, right? And again, once if you're a busy working DP and you don't have time to go into the coloring session, all this metadata, if you are using the latest software from Premiere, there's a plugin called Lumetri that allows you to bring in the material and automatically the look gets applied that you created as a DP on in the editing bay. So they're able to tell exactly what was the intended look that the DP created. And it's non-destructive, so they can switch back and forth to the original log C material, and they can switch back and forth to the log C material and check out what the DP intended to, what was the DP's intent, right? So many DPs are working, they don't have time to go to the coloring session, so at least, the director and producer can say, okay, this is what they intended. Whether they're going to go with that look or not, that's a different story, right? But that does have the possibility. So we can record it just as metadata or really, burnt in to the camera.
And when we're creating that look, we're choosing between either log or video in those settings, right?
Right. What you're doing there is if you're choosing log, it's just being carried out as metadata. Now, if we switch it to video, Rec 709, then we're burning that look in.
All right.
Okay.
There's also a difference in the latitude done as well?
Yeah, we're looking at around 12, close to 12 stops in Rec 709, right? Rec 709 is just a standard for HD TV display, so we have to fall in within that gamma curve, right? Everyone, all other manufacturers have the same Rec 709 output, but they all look a little bit different. Why? Because they can add a different curve to that, as long as we fall within that space that they want us to. So yes, it's a little bit less because it's more of a saturated look. With log C, what we're doing is just desaturating the look a bit so that we can capture more highlight detail or bring it back in post so we can bring back more highlights and more shadow detail. So that's shooting in log C is where we really get the 14.2 stops of dynamic range on the camera. So now what we're going to do here is shoot a little bit of log C footage, okay? And then we'll bring up the AMIRA color tool, and then I can show you guys how to create a look within AMIRA color tool. We'll save it back onto our USB stick here, and we already have the folder structure automatically created, and then we can upload it to the camera, and then we'll be able to see it through the output, that different look, okay? So what I'm going to do, since I've already shot some material, I'm going to just erase that card real quick. Okay, so now that the card has been erased, I'm going to check out really quick what parameters I'm shooting with. Okay, so we're going to just shoot at standard 23976. We're at 3200 color temperature, and I'm going to leave my exposure index or ASA at 800. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to change this output really quick for you guys there. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Wow. Pops pretty nice in there. Okay. So I'm going to just grab a few seconds of log C material. Okay. So now I can take this out. So I'll take out the card, also the USB. Pop that out. And then we'll switch this over to the laptop. and I'm going to bring up my, so I'm going to drop it in here into our reader. Okay, also the USB, put that guy in there. I don't know why I can't see it on my screen. Okay. No, I can't see that on my screen. That's weird. Okay, so I'm going to open up the AMIRA Color Tool. Let's see here, applications. So this AMIRA Color Tool is a free software tool that you can download from our website. It's the same as the Arri Look Creator. If you guys worked before with Alexa, it's the same thing going on there. So it's a free tool that will allow you to make some changes. Let me hide this really quick. I want to see where. Okay, so first what we're going to do actually is this is the material that was just shot here. So this is the file, right? So I can just bring that over. I'll copy it over just to my desktop real quick. Okay, so that's copied over to my desktop. So now I can reopen the color tool down here, and I'm going to find it over here where it says File Browser. We also have, this is a standard look or a standard person that comes in within the color tool, and right there we can also, we have in the look library we have demo look files, right? So these already are pre-built looks that you can also say if you want to select these pre-built looks, you can. Right, so the first one will be a commercial, like a default look. Right, then we have a more of a film style look. We have a bleach bypass look there. Then also film style, different type of look that we could apply there that was really, really cool. A tobacco look, right, high key. The landscape look, and then we already have the ones that are built in within the camera. Right, so landscape, low contrast curve. We have another low-key curve, vibrant, and then where you want to use Alexa and also AMIRA, we would have that selection there. So X2, Alexa. Okay, but let's say that we want to be able to manipulate the look at least, right? So right now we're looking at Rec 709. We have, and we can look at the material how it was originally captured in log C, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is we'll go over to the file browser, and on the file browser I can find my look there that I have. So the file that I have over here, right, I can select that file, right, that we've just shot, right, and we can bring in that look. Let's see here, where's that? Videos. Downloads.
Did you drag it to your desktop?
Yeah, I'm looking for my, because I don't get an output from here, so it's kind of hard to see. It's hard to see here, so I don't know where my, there it is, desktop. There we go, okay. So here's a look, right? So that's a look, that's what we just shot right now. Right, so we can view that in log C, right? How it's originally captured in log C right now, and now we have to look in Rec 709, or the look that we're going to apply. So if we want to apply a quick look to that, we can hit C. So now we have these color tools at our disposal, right? So now we can play around with the look there. So say we want to make it, you know, I don't know, maybe a little bit more warmer. Right, something drastic and stuff, right? Just to show the difference there. So once we've created the look, we can go back to the original on how it looks in Rec 709 and log C, right? So let's say that we like that look that we've just created, right? Now all we really have to do is we go back to File, Save Look As, okay, and then we'll call it we'll call it Cine Equipped, right? And then we'll do color tool, right? Okay, so color tool. And then now we're going to save it onto our USB that we pulled out. I called it AMIRA 15017, which is the number of the camera, right? It already has this folder layout there. So we have room there where we would drop in our frame lines, our grabs. If we need information from the log files, we have look files. The manual is also in the USB stick there. Setups, so if we're doing a setup and moving from one camera to another camera, we can also change, or if we like those settings, we can apply them to another camera, right? The same with the look. If you've applied a look to that, you can save that look and apply it into every single camera, okay? So what we're gonna do now is just drop it in to our look file, looks folder, okay? So we have that, we'll save it, of course. Okay, so now I'm gonna quit the AMIRA color tool real quick. So now we're gonna go over here. I'll eject our USB. There. Okay, so I can pull that out now. I can drop it back into the camera. And we're gonna import that look back into the camera. Swap this out. Okay, so we'll drop in the USB back in there. We'll go into the main menu, to the home menu. And then now where it says look, right, we'll go back into the look menu. And then we'll say set look. And we're going to add a look, right? So we're gonna press add. Add from where? From the USB stick, right? So then we'll select Cine Equipped Color Tool. Okay, so it's importing that file. So now that file has been imported. The only reason I'm calling it color tool is because you can also create, since we can also create a 3D LUT in Resolve or any other software, that way at least you know where that look is coming from, whether it's from the color tool or from, say, Resolve or Final Cut or any other application, okay? So we go back now, and now we can make our selection. So right now we've selected within the menu. So now we've created a look and we've saved it here within the menu, within the looks that already are built into the camera. So Cine Equipped Color Tool, we'll select that. And now if we wanna look at that there, we can tell, okay, that's a red look or warmer feel that we were going for, right? I'm not a DP, it's not that pretty, you know? But you guys get the point, right? And how it's used and stuff. Okay, so that's another way. I think it's easier to work with the color tool itself because you don't have to really fiddle too much around here. If you want to make a correction, slight correction with the in-camera grading, that's fine. But to really be able to play a little bit, more in depth with the colors, the color tool is the way to go, right? So you can easily, and again, on set, for now, we would be using the USB. At a later point in time, you'll be able to create that and then just send that wirelessly, that look that you created wirelessly to the camera, okay? So that's one way of doing it.
Does the color tool read files from other sources other than the AMIRA?
Other than AMIRA, no, it has to be log C footage from AMIRA.
From AMIRA.
Yeah, yeah. It can also be a grab function, so we can just take a still with the camera. But to get an accurate representation of the sensor, then you really want to bring in, or you really want to capture the footage with the camera, right? Because if you can capture, say, with a 7D and bring it into the AMIRA color tool, well, they're different sensors. It's a completely different camera. So you're not really recreating, or really going off of a baseline from the sensor. So that's why it's only AML files, which is an AMIRA look file that we allow. Okay. We went over simple grading, so that's with the AMIRA color tool. Again, it's a free software tool that you can download online, right? Then we did a little bit advanced grading. Again, I'm not a colorist, but we can do that with Resolve, as I just shown you guys. So you can create a 3D LUT, convert it to a look, upload it into the camera, which we just did. I'll go back to our Rec 709 output here. And then we also have looks in editing. So when you're editing in Premiere, this is where we're talking about there. If you can see on the top left, is a little plugin. It's called Lumetri, AMIRA LUT. So that's where we'll be able to do A and B between log C footage and what the DP intended. So that's very cool because it automatically, there's no need, it's a plugin that automatically applies the look. It's really fast, right? It's a really, really fast way of working. These are some of the tools that are free online, same as Alexa. We have a simulator, so if you haven't had a chance to play with the camera and learn the menu, which is super easy, you can go on there, and it has the latest software that we're running. Every time we come out with a new software, we update it, within the simulator because there's certain functions change. So you can, familiarize yourself with the camera, all of its functions before you actually get to the prep floor, which is nice to be able to do, right? It's Sunday night and get a call, you have, a job on Monday, you never played with the camera, you're gonna start sweating bullets, So, but at least you can jump on our website and start figuring out the menu and at least be a little bit more comfortable when you do see the camera. And then we have Frameline Composer, where you can create your own frame lines. Same as Alexa, right? You would download those frame lines, save it onto your desktop, and then bring them in via the USB, okay? AMIRA Color Tool, we went over that. That's pretty much it. We covered it all.